Welcome to All Things Work. I'm your host, Ann Sparaco. For this episode, we're recording at SHRM Talent 2025, an annual conference providing cutting-edge insight organizations need to retain top talent and get the best candidates in a dynamic talent pool. For more information and to register for any and all SHRM events, just click on the link in the episode's description. Today, we're exploring how to work with international workers and what organizations need to know. And joining us to guide us through this conversation is Solveiga Jaskunas, international keynote speaker, mentor, and HR consultant. Welcome to All Things Work, Solveiga.
Well, thank you so much for the invite. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So we were speaking earlier, and you said you came to the United States from Lithuania more than 20 years ago. Can you talk about your experience and how when you came to the U.S., entering the workforce, what that was like for you?
So yeah, the beginning was difficult because when I came to the United States, I had a degree from the best university in Lithuania in industrial psychology, but I didn't get any interviews. My family and my friends told me I should do something else where English might be not as important. And of course, I thought about it because it's, when you don't get any interviews, but I decided to pursue my dream because I already had invested 6 years of my education. It was still for me surprising that after I took 2 classes in human resources, I started getting phone calls. And then I thought, it's still interesting because employers will think that 2 classes are more valuable than 6 years of education. But that helped me with the interviews. But when my interviews ended after first question or my voicemails that didn't get returned, this is when I realized I truly don't know if I will ever be able to compete in the United States. But I also decided, to focus on what I can do versus what I can't. And it's definitely shaped me who I am today. It actually helped me to become more resilient, more compassionate. And I think I will never do the work I do today if I haven't had that experience.
So you talked about the language barrier is one of the challenges in climbing the ladder in the workforce in the United States. Can you talk about maybe any other challenges you think that typically face, U.S. immigrants?
So immigrants, face a lot of different challenges, both like even from my story external, when suddenly like our experience compared to everybody else and we don't look the same. And many organizations don't even give a chance to meet you and to tell about what you know. Sometimes we assume that your language is not good or your experience is not relevant. So definitely external stereotypes, but also internal ones. Because when you face the rejections, then suddenly you start doubting in yourself. When I work with other immigrants, when I meet them, I definitely see the value we can bring. I see the experience, I see the passion, but usually they don't see that value themselves. And when we start seeing that value and then we know how to communicate that value to employers, then usually opportunities also come.
How do some of these challenges, really interfere with the individual trying to thrive in the workplace, maybe climb that ladder? How does it in other ways kind of prevent them, or, like you said, they almost are too critical of themselves. I think a lot of people can relate to that just in general.
Yeah, so how they can overcome, I think for me, and I think for many, mentoring is a game changer. Is no question, especially when you come to a new country, you have to learn how to navigate so many different challenges. And having people who support you, who inspire you, who believe in you, who challenge you is a key. As I said, I never thought even to be speaking, and the reason I'm here because Suddenly I got pushed to do that. And I think for other people, I will say, when you come to a new country, you need to focus on a few things. First, of course, you need to develop your knowledge. There are many things you need to learn, not only language, but to navigate the new culture. You need also to develop that courage and resilience, not look at no's as the end of your journey, as something that will help you to prepare to your next yes, and where you can become strong and more resilient. And finally, ask for help and help others, because this is how you develop the group of the people who really support you.
So, what should employers really know about when it comes to the challenges international employees face that might help with, their interactions and communication styles?
So I think what is really important for employers or leaders to know, that many immigrants, like refugees, expats, they already had doubt in themselves, and it's difficult for them to ask help or to say, these are the challenges I have and I need help with this, because you already feel insecure, and then like that will bring another level of insecurity. So creating that psychological safety is a key. And I think for the leaders, it's really important to start the journey not asking how like the challenges we face, but sharing the challenges we face themselves. And maybe also to talk about cultural shock, what cultural shock employees experience. Maybe also talk about what cultural differences the employees see from their perspective comparing with your country. That will help for the managers understand them better. And then also, it's very important to be honest, because many people, when you come from another country, you still think the old way, and it doesn't help you to succeed in the United States. And like recently, I talked to many people, but a few stories I want to share. And some things is really easy to correct, but something it can be really hard. So one person from Egypt told me that when he came, he was calling all women my dear, my darling. And he didn't realize, because this is how in his culture we call. And then this almost was a sexual harassment, and women felt very uncomfortable. But
Okay.
he didn't know, because many people didn't say it.
Mm-hmm.
But when he found out, it was easy for him to correct. And yet, like for others, to change other qualities can be really difficult. Like I talked to one woman who told me that for her, like in her culture, you don't look to the eyes, especially to men. And then the people told her that when she doesn't look to people's eyes, other people cannot relate with her. They think that she is not confident and that she is not honest. So it took her a long time. She took a special effort. She told me that she even looked to the dog eyes, just to practice to everybody to look to people's eyes.
Really?
So that she could be more successful. And for me too, like there are a lot of things in my culture, being like visible is not as comfortable, or talking about yourself is not easy. But it's not an option when you in the interview setting, or you want to promote yourself. So something you have to start almost acting against your values, or start practicing different ways of behavior that will help you. So I think the leaders could help encourage and be honest in explaining why certain behavior can help you to grow and why certain behavior will hurt you in the United States.
Yes, and it's also important for those employers to understand the cultural differences,
Yeah.
so that when they get this new employee, they might have to educate themselves a little bit to understand, okay, this is more common in this person's culture. It may not be common in the United States, but it doesn't mean, this person's doing anything bad. But just to understand it, takes that barrier down and overcomes a little bit of challenge there and helps the employee at the end of the day.
Yes, and I like that. Some organizations are doing those small bios or passport and tells every employee tells how we like to be looked or like how we like to work. So, for example, if we don't like that people look at the eyes, we share it. So everybody's more aware about it. Or like if it's hard for you to start like conversations like in networking when other people can help. So yeah, I think something that you can share with everybody that can help you to grow, that can be really helpful.
Great. And we know that foreign-born workers, are a great untapped talent pool. A lot of great talent and strengths from this dynamic group. And SHRM recently released a new data report called "The Role of Foreign-Born Workers in the U.S. Labor Force," and it found nearly 20% of the U.S. labor force was born in another country, and so it's been continuously growing. So from your experience, what are some of those really unique skills and perspectives international employees bring to the workplace to strengthen organizations? I would love to focus on the strengths here.
People from other countries bring a lot of value, like especially in the global economy, we want or not, our workforce becomes more diverse. And one thing they bring is a more diverse perspective because they bring more diverse education, they may bring more diverse experience, they bring understanding about different cultures, and that can be really beneficial. They also know what it works in one culture versus another. They can help to understand your clients better and relate with your clients better. So if organization is not diverse, we are not reaching the same potential. We cannot relate with variety of the clients. We cannot understand the markets the way people from other countries can understand. But I think also what people bring, that agility, resilience, adaptability that is really required in today's world. And then cultural sensitivity to others. So yeah, we said just a few things, but I think more like narrow experience and narrow mindsets lead to narrow accomplishments. And the more like open-minded organization is, the more diverse team is, the more like wider accomplishments we can get.
Widen your mindset, widen your accomplishments. I love that.
Yes.
So the research report SHRM conducted also found foreign-born workers are disproportionately represented at both the lowest and highest levels of education. So how does this duality really create unique opportunities and challenges for organizations?
So maybe I'll talk about those two groups separately because opportunities and challenges are also a little different. So the first group, I think it shows that many immigrants, expats feel that in the order for them to succeed in the United States, we have to work on, in any other country, that we have to work harder, we have to achieve more than others. Like even me, like I would never got the same degree twice. Like my first degree was industrial psychology. I wouldn't get a degree in human resources, but I knew that if I wouldn't get, I will never have a chance to work in the field. And so I think many other people feel the same way, that we have to work more. And especially if they need employment visas, many of them feel that they need to get PhD level job education for them to stay in the United States. All the companies also hire the best talent from around the world as well. So that's why like the numbers that can be so high.
Yes.
But what it means for the organizations that we get really talented and very educated employees, and that is a good thing. But we also getting employees that they still need a lot of help because they might need those employees in the leadership role, and they still need to understand the cultural differences. They still need to navigate how to work in the United States. And so the organizations can help them to grow. And another group, employees, people who come from other countries and they didn't have education in their countries. And then suddenly we live in a country that education is the most expensive in the world. It's not accessible for everybody. We have to work, the jobs we have, they pay low. And we have, especially we have families, education becomes almost inaccessible. And they decide that they came here for their kids, not for themselves, and they don't seek the opportunities. And yet the employers can make a big difference. First, like, for language skills, but also education. And of course, might be employers cannot afford to pay for all education, but what they can do, provide, like even classes of Coursera can be so inexpensive. And if employee takes classes, I don't know, in IT, in human resources, in accounting, in any field, then provide those opportunities in the organization without a formal degree. So employees can develop skills and we can grow to the field and then they can become a professionals we want to see to be.
And so we know that a strong workplace culture is essential when you have such diverse teams in your organization. What are some key elements you think really help support and strengthen a workplace culture, to support those diverse teams?
I think the most important is psychological safety. And of course, having the team that is diverse as well. And you create psychological safety by creating trust and by not being afraid to be vulnerable as a leader. And here probably I also provided, as I said, I've got education in 2 different countries, in 2 different fields, in the same fields, but the view how leaders or HR professionals should be vulnerable in the organization was very different. So when I got my degree in industrial psychology in Lithuania, our professor, we had to take a lot of clinical psychology classes as requirement. And one of the class was counseling. We also had to take classes about trauma, about different personality theories. And in the counseling, our professor told us that we have to talk about something to bring to the class that is something the most painful and to share in front of everybody.
Oh, wow.
And as you can imagine, that is hard because it's very hard. It's very hard to talk of your friend, but when suddenly you have a whole class listening. And in the second class, one of our students was sharing, but the professor interrupted him in 5 minutes or so and told him to leave the class. Yes, he told to leave a class, and he told me that the next time if you come and if you're afraid to be vulnerable, you're going to fail this class and think if it's the right profession for you. Because if you're afraid to be vulnerable, you cannot help anybody else. And that really, that was such a good lesson for all of us. And yes, from that time, nobody took a chance not to share something really painful, and we had really very good class. But what I've learned, when I came here to the States, and I got degree in preparing for the same job, working in organizations with employees. I didn't have a single class in psychology. I didn't have a single class about trauma. counseling, and we were not required to be vulnerable. It's almost like when you go to organizations, you have to be strong and you expect everybody else to be vulnerable, but not you. And yet, every time in my work, if I work with somebody, if I start sharing about my own challenges, it suddenly it allows other people to share their own. And I worked in one organization in the States where the CEO shared about his addiction to alcohol. And then suddenly, because it was COVID, for everybody became comfortable to share the challenges we had. And was really powerful. It was really good. So I think working with international employees, I don't say that you have to go really deep, but it's really important to create that space that people are comfortable sharing what is difficult for them.
Because if you're vulnerable first, it makes other people feel safe. And you talked about psychological safety. There are also biases and stereotypes in the workplace. A healthy workplace obviously would reduce that as much as possible, but it's hard to eliminate that 100% in every single individual employee, especially with new employees coming in and other employees leaving. So how would you suggest employers proactively address these types of issues? Because you touched on a little bit about the psychological safety. To really create a workplace where all workers, especially foreign-born workers, can thrive.
Yeah, so employers can do a lot, and we can do more than we are doing now. First, starting from recruiting to see what candidates you hire and what candidates you don't. And challenge yourself because to consider people from different type of experience and different perspectives, and don't make assumptions that certain education is not relevant or some experience is not good. Secondly, provide more comprehensive onboarding because when you come from another country, it can be like even understanding health insurance can be really difficult. Then thirdly, provide mentoring in organizations, provide cross-cultural support. Also, like diversity programs can be really beneficial to understanding about American culture as well. And I also think it's one thing also employers could definitely can help providing the legal support for employees who need that help, especially their visas, and can be really expensive, but many times employees are comfortable paying themselves. And finally, creating that environment where everybody's voices can be heard, providing opportunities to move up to different roles, providing environment when people is feeling heard, noticed, and understood. And I also see that employee advocacy programs can be really beneficial for employees telling their own stories and learning more about stories of others.
So you speak with a lot of international employees and, in the mentorship realm and consulting. Do you have any examples, even from you personally, in which business leaders took an inclusive approach to support employees such as yourself? Because like we talked about, foreign-born workers make up such a large portion of the workforce. I'm sure a lot of people have different stories, but what really stood out to you with your clients about what HR leaders did differently that really helped them thrive in the workplace?
What it helped me a lot myself, and a lot of employers don't consider really expanding on the mentoring and internships, because many immigrant professionals will benefit from an internships in the organizations, but sometimes we cannot get them because we are for college students. But many people even with extensive education and experience, they would love to get that experience in the United States. And that can open the doors to so many opportunities. So for me also, like initially when I looked for a job, I found one organization that they agreed one paid internship. And that opportunity helped me with my first job in the United States. So I believe a lot of organizations will benefit from that. I also see that it can really beneficial for the organizations to think about how we can help the immigrants employees, international employees to become thought leaders and not to be afraid to share their stories and to write their stories.
I love that you shared a lot of your vulnerability. You took your lessons from, your education, what you learned in that class, and you're sharing it today. So we really appreciate it. And,
Thank you.
thank you so much for guiding us through this conversation. We hope a lot of people, listen to this and maybe even just understand what it's like or feel empowered to feel confident and widen their mindset to embrace that diversity. Thank you so much, Solveiga, for sharing your vulnerability and your experience, your unique experience, and your mentorship. We really loved it today. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much too. Yes, it was incredible. Thank you.
A very incredible conversation. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of All Things Work. For more information on our newsletter and the research supporting these big topics, especially resources SHRM offers, just head to shrm.org/allthingswork. Comment, like, share on social media. We would love you to be part of the conversation. That's it for this week. We'll catch you next time.
SHRM.